As you already know from a few days ago, we finally have confirmation about the two characters that will be released in the upcoming version 3.6. And one of those two, Evernight, is one of the most talked about because she is one of the favorite characters of many players in this game. From the information about Remarketing 3.6, we already know that Evernight herself has an ice type with a Remembrance path, which means she will have a special MEMOSPRITE. Evernight is also rumored to be a main DPS who can deal massive damage through her MEMOSPRITE skills and ultimate. Oh yeah, according to the showcase video that's already circulating, she'll also be a great fit with Castorice, because she has a trace that requires her to be with many Remembrance characters in the team. Will the addition of Evernight into the latest fashion make her the best companion for Castorice or a top-tier main DPS in the current meta? So without further ado, I'm HoYoStation and let's get right into the discussion of Evernight's kit. Let's do this. Do you have a character or weapon in the game that you really want but you don't have enough Stellar Jades? Here's a smarter way to recharge your favorite games like Genshin Impact and honkaistarrail. Look no further than Lootbar. Lootbar is the most reliable top-up platform. It saves up to 23% for all orders compared with the official channel, and it provides an 80% off for your first purchase. It's 100% safe as you will only be using your UID. We will buy pack for 3,000 Stellar Jades for $42, which otherwise would have costed $50, totally saving $7.5. We received the crystals we purchased in the less than 3 minutes. All recharges will be done through the official channel with miHoYo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Ready to level up your gaming experience? Check the link in the description to get the amazing discount. First, let's talk a little about her base stats first, guys. Although Evernight scales with maximum HP, Evernight has a lower base HP compared to Castorice but higher than Hyacinth, both of whom are characters with similar paths. The difference is quite big, about 300 points. But don't worry because Evernight has a bonus trace of HP percentage, which Castorice doesn't. An interesting aspect of Evernight's base stats lies in her base speed and maximum energy. Evernight has a base speed of 99 points, while Castorice has 95 points. With a slightly higher base speed, Evernight can be played with a typical character speed build, which is around 134 points for optimal use. One thing I need to mention is her quite big maximum energy, which is around 240 points. This is a rather high number, so we need to ensure she has enough energy for Evernight to consistently use her ultimate. Next, we will discuss her skill, Day Gently Sleeps. This skill consumes 12% of Evernight's maximum HP to summon a MEMOSPRITE named Evie. It also increases the critical damage of all allied MEMOSPRITE by 40% for 2 turns. This skill's duration will decrease with each Evernight turn. If Evie is already on the field, she will recover 50% of her maximum HP. Using this skill provides 2 Memoria. However, if you use this skill in Darkest Reroll mode, Evernight will gain an additional 12 Memoria. If Evernight's HP insufficient when this skill is used, her HP will be reduced to 1 point when the skill is cast. Okay guys, this skill has several effects. First, Evernight can use this skill to summon her MEMOSPRITE, Evie. The second effect is that in addition to summoning Evie, this skill can provide a buff to all of your teammates' MEMOSPRITEs. To take advantage of this effect, you need to use characters on the same team that have MEMOSPRITEs, such as Castorice, Hyacinth, and RMC. Additionally, this skill provides Memoria, a special resource unique to Evernight. You can use Memoria to launch a powerful MEMOSPRITE attack once you have at least 16 stacks. In normal mode, Evernight only gains 2 Memoria. However, in Darkest Reroll, she gains 2 Memoria plus 12, for a total of 14. This additional Memoria make it easier for Evernight to use her enhanced skills because we only need 2 more Memoria. This skill has a unique aspect. Evernight won't consume skill points when it's used. This allows us to save skill points for other characters. This skill is similar to Castorice's, which also consumes HP and doesn't use skill point when cast. Now we will move on to her ultimate move, called Oh Wakeful Goodnight. When this ultimate is launched, Evernight will call Eevee. Then Eevee will deal ice damage equal to 120% of Eevee's maximum HP to all enemies, and cause Evernight to enter a special state called Darkest Riddle. During this status, the damage received by all enemies increases by 20%, then the damage dealt by Evernight increases by 100%, and both Evernight and Eevee will be immune to crowd control. Then give 2 charges of Darkest Riddle. Eevee consumes 1 charge after using Dream dissolving as dew. At the start of each Evernight turn, if there are no remaining charges, Evernight will exit the Darkest Riddle status. Well, this kit is quite interesting because besides dealing AoE damage to enemies, her ultimate will immediately put Evernight into Darkest Riddle mode, giving her several buffs such as increased damage and CC immunity. Of course, these effects are excellent for boosting both of their damage output and making us play more comfortably, as enemies cannot apply CC effects to Evernight. Additionally, the Darkest Riddle mode itself has a charge that is consumed each time Eevee uses Dream dissolving as dew, which are her enhanced MEMOSPRITE skill. Now it's time for us to discuss her talent. When entering battle, Evernight will summon Eevee. Eevee normally has 160 speed and her maximum HP is 100% of Evernight's maximum HP. Each time Evernight or Eevee loses HP, their critical damage will increase by 60% for 2 turns, and they will gain 2 Memoria. This effect can only be triggered once at a time. When Evernight has 16 or more Memoria, they will clear and become immune to crowd control. If Eevee is on the field, she will immediately get a turn. This effect can be triggered again after Eevee uses Dream dissolving as dew. One interesting thing about this talent is that Eevee's speed is quite high at 160 point, guys. This will make Eevee get turns quite often. Additionally, this talent will also increase the critical damage of Evernight and Eevee if their HP is reduced. That means, in addition to receiving attacks directly from the enemy, effects like Hyacinth's signature Lacone or Castorice's skills can activate this critical damage increase. We will also discuss her MEMOSPRITE, Eevee. Eevee has 2 types of skills, the normal version and the enhanced version. The normal version, Remembrance whirling like rain, launches automatically and prioritizes the enemy last attacked by Evernight. This skill deals ice damage equal to 20% of maximum HP to every enemy. For every 4 Evernight Memoria, you will deal an additional 4% of maximum HP in ice damage. This skill also grants you 1 Memoria after being cast. Although this skill doesn't seem to deal significant damage, its main purpose is to help fill Evernight's Memoria. Additionally, it will automatically activate Eevee's turn. Considering Eevee's base speed of 160 points, she will frequently use this attack to deal damage or reduce the toughness bar or enemies weak to ice. The enhanced MEMOSPRITE's skills are called Dream dissolving as dew. They are among Evernight's main skill. When Evernight's Memoria reaches or exceeds 16 points and she is not affected by crowd control, consume all her HP and Memoria to launch an attack. For every point of Memoria consumed, the main target takes ice damage equal to 5% of Eevee's maximum HP, and other enemies take ice damage equal to 2.5% of Eevee's maximum HP. After using this skill, Eevee will disappear. This type of skill is unique. Unlike most AoE skills, this one can select a main target and deal double the damage. This means that although it's an AoE skill, you still need to target bosses or elite enemies for them to take higher damage. Additionally, the damage from this skill depends on how many Memoria points Evernight has. The more Memoria points you have, the greater the damage dealt. The main uniqueness of this skill is that it consumes all of Eevee's HP, which will certainly provide a significant energy boost for Castorice if you pair them in the same team, making Castorice's ultimate very easy to trigger. Next, we will discuss Eevee's MEMOSPRITE talent, guys. The first talent of MEMOSPRITE is called Solitude Drifting in Murk, which makes Eevee immune to crowd control but more likely to be targeted by enemies. While Eevee is on the field, increases the damage of Evernight and Eevee by 50%. Using abilities will consume 1% of Eevee's maximum HP or reduce HP to 1 point if HP is insufficient. This first talent is very helpful. especially for the significant damage increase of 50%. Additionally, the duration of this damage increase is permanent as long as Eevee is on the field. Then every time Eevee uses her ability, she will consume 1% of her HP, which will be very useful for teammates like Castorice to help charge her ultimate. For the second talent of the MEMOSPRITE named Knight, Trailing in Step, when Eevee is called, it will restore 20% of Eevee's maximum HP, and Eevee will immediately get a turn. Although it has a very simple effect, this talent will be very useful so that every time Eevee is called, she will restore HP for Evernight and gain immediate action, which will automatically give Evernight Memoria points. Then for the third MEMOSPRITE talent named You, Parting Beyond Reach. When Eevee disappears, it restores 30 energy for Evernight and increases her action by 20%. The effect of this talent will be very helpful for Evernight to quickly get her ultimate, because as we know from the beginning, Evernight has a very high energy cost of 240 points. Additionally, Eevee will often disappear because she will vanish every time she uses her enhanced MEMOSPRITE skill, causing the effect of this talent to be frequently triggered. Okay, we've already discussed her MEMOSPRITE. Now we will talk about her equally interesting techniques. This technique, called Let It Rain Cold on Thee, will have an effect upon entering battle. It will provide an effect identical to a skill that increases the critical damage of all teammates' MEMOSPRITEs and grants 2 Memoria points. This technique will cause Evernight to immediately provide a critical damage buff equal to her own skill, which is 40%. This will allow all teammates to deal high damage from the start of the battle thanks to this effect. Additionally, Evernight will also gain 2 Memoria at the beginning of the battle, which will help her launch enhanced MEMOSPRITE skills more quickly. Next, we will move on to the traces section. For the minor traces, it will provide 18.7% critical rate, 18% HP, and also 13.3% critical damage. These 3 stats will be very useful for Evernight, especially the critical rate, which is quite high at 18%. The addition of HP will also be very suitable for her entire kit, which scales with HP. And with the critical value being quite high, it will be easier for us to build this character because we won't have too much difficulty finding a good critical ratio. Okay, now we are going to discuss her traces. For the first trace, named Rose the Flame, Lull the Light. At the start of the battle, Evernight will restore 60 energy points and gain 2 Memoria. When teammates use abilities, Evernight will gain 1 Memoria. The effect of this trace will be very useful at the beginning of the battle, where it will gain extra energy to be able to launch her ultimate earlier. Additionally, we should also use another Remembrance character as a teammate for Evernight, so that she gains additional Memoria whenever her teammates' MEMOSPRITEs use their abilities. Therefore, characters like RMC, Hyacinth, and Castorice will be the best characters to pair with her. For the second trace, named Dark the Night, Still the Moon, it will increase the critical rate of Evernight and Eevee by 30%. After using Dream Dissolving Asdew, it will restore 1 skill point for teammates. If we add her trace bonus, Evernight and Eevee will have a critical rate of 48.7% without any critical rate stats from relics or light cones. Of course, this effect will be excellent, allowing us to focus on finding other stats like critical damage, HP, and also speed without having to worry too much about critical rate, as Evernight already has a critical rate of around 50% for free from the start. Besides the addition of critical rate, the bonus skill points provided will also be very useful for certain conditions, such as for Hyacinth or RMC skills, both of which still require skill points to maximize their kits. Then her last trace, named Kindle the Morn, Drop the Rain. The more Remembrance characters in the team, Evernight skill will provide additional critical damage for all MEMOSPRITEs up to 50%. From this trace effect, it requires you to use 4 Remembrance characters to get an additional 50% critical damage for free. Certainly with this, Castorice, Evernight, RMC, and Hyacinth can be a suitable composition for Evernight, at least at the time of her release in the upcoming version. If you don't have 4 Remembrance characters for Evernight team, you can still use at least 3 Remembrance because it only reduces the additional critical damage by 10%. For example, if you want to use 3B as a substitute for RMC. Oh yeah, if you do a little calculation, the critical damage bonus we get if we use 4 Remembrance is 90%, which is a very big number. But it's important to remember that this critical damage increase only applies to MEMOSPRITEs. So, attacks from the character who owns the MEMOSPRITE will not receive a critical damage boost. Finally, we will move on to the last part of the kit, the EIDOLON section. The first EIDOLON, Sleep Tight, the Night Dreams Long, has an effect when Evernight is on the field and there are 4 or fewer enemy targets. Your teammates' MEMOSPRITEs will deal up to 150% of their original damage. Her first EIDOLON's effect is very good at providing additional damage to your teammates' MEMOSPRITEs, depending on the number of enemies on the field. The fewer enemies, the greater the additional damage. MEMOSPRITEs that can deal damage, like those of Castorice and Hyacinth, will greatly benefit from this EIDOLON's effect. Next is the second EIDOLON. Listen up, the Slumber Speaks Soft. For each Memoria gained by Evernight, the amount gained increases by 2 points. Using the ultimate provides an additional 2 charges of Darkest Riddle. The effect of this second EIDOLON is interesting, isn't it? How could it not be? This EIDOLON will certainly have a significant impact on collecting Evernight's Memoria. For example, if Evernight uses a skill while having the Darkest Riddle charge, she will gain 14 Memoria points. Then, thanks to this EIDOLON's effect, she will gain 16 Memoria points. This is useful for increasing the damage of her MEMOSPRITE skills, Dream Dissolving as due. Additionally, every time Evernight uses her ultimate, she gains 4 Darkest Riddle charges. This means she can cast Dream Dissolving as due more frequently, significantly increasing her damage output. For the fourth EIDOLON, named Wake Up, the Tomorrow is Yours. When Evernight is on the field, the weakness break efficiency of teammates' MEMOSPRITEs will increase by 25% and Eevee will receive an additional 25% weakness break efficiency. Although this EIDOLON's effect doesn't provide additional damage, it's quite useful for helping teammates' MEMOSPRITEs and Eevee break enemy toughness. Teammates like Castorice will be greatly helped because her Nether Wing can attack continuously, making enemies easily hit with the weakness break status. The drawback of this EIDOLON is that it doesn't provide any damage increase, making the effect of this EIDOLON feel insufficient. For her final EIDOLON named like this, Always, during Evernight in the field, all types resistant penetration for teammates are increased by 20%. After Eevee uses Dream Dissolving as due, Evernight gains 30% of Memoria used by their skills. With this EIDOLON effect, all teammates will receive all type resistant penetration, which will result in greater damage output, especially if the enemy does not have the weakness type that the teammates possess. Additionally, 30% of the Memoria used to launch Dream Dissolving as due will be returned. For example, if we use 20 Memoria points, then 6 Memoria points will be returned. Of course, this effect will be very beneficial for Evernight, allowing her to gain more Memoria points as the battle progresses. At the end of this video, I will discuss her signature light cone called To Evernight's Stars. This light cone will increase the user's maximum HP by 30%. Another fact is that when the user's MEMOSPRITE uses an ability, the user will gain 1 stack of Noctis. When the user has Noctis, ultimate MEMOSPRITEs will ignore 20% of the enemy's defense when dealing damage. Similar effects cannot be stacked. For each Noctis stack the user has, the damage dealt by the user and their MEMOSPRITEs is increased by 12%. Noctis can be stacked up to 4 times. The effect of this light cone is very well suited to Evernight's own kit. This light cone will provide Noctis with the ability to make teammates' MEMOSPRITEs ignore enemy defense, as well as increase the users and their own MEMOSPRITE's damage. Of course, with this effect, both Evernight and other Remembrance teammates will receive increased damage from this light cone. The increase in damage dealt to the user and their MEMOSPRITE can reach up to 48% at its maximum limit. Of course, this increase will be very useful for those of you who want to use Evernight as a DPS. In addition, This icon can be used as an alternative to Castorice because it can provide a very useful increase in maximum HP for her. Okay guys, that's probably all for Evernight's newest kit. What do you think about this character? Are you planning to pull this character in version 3.6? Please leave any comments down below and don't forget to check out my other videos because they are just as cool. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.